Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Thursday, September 18th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
Montreal police have identified Jacques Bolduc as the man responsible for the 2008 murder of 26-year-old Catherine Davio. They say they solved the case by using genetic genealogy. Investigators were able to match Bolduc's DNA to evidence collected from the crime scene.
We did some familial, close familial relationship, like familial testing, to confirm that the DNA from the crime scene was compatible with this individual.
Bolduc died in 2021 from natural causes while serving time in prison for 2 robberies and attempted murder. Davio's death dates back to December 11, 2008, when firefighters responded to a fire at an apartment. Inside, police discovered her body. She had been sexually assaulted and murdered, and the fire appeared to have been set deliberately to cover up the crime. At the time, investigators noted there were no signs of forced entry, suggesting Davio may have known her attacker. However, police now confirm that Davio and Bolduc did not know each other. Police say Bolduc contacted her a few days before the murder. She was selling her car through an online listing. Police say they informed the victim's sister this morning.
They were relieved about that. It was a sad moment. It's a big thing because you live again all of that. It's a very difficult moment.
Because Bolduc is dead, there will be no criminal proceedings. The SPVM says the case is finally closed. And for the family, after nearly 20 years after her death, they finally have some answers. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
It's like a hostage on a chain, and she's holding her like a ransom as collateral to get this child support. It's unacceptable, it's wrong, it's criminal.
Mark Whitaker still can't believe he was deceived by a woman he thought loved him, a woman he'd met online, fell in love, and had a child with, who then took their child from Cookstown to Russia for what he thought would be a short trip to see her family until she ghosted him.
She stopped communicating, she wouldn't answer calls, she would just hang up or decline calls. She wouldn't respond to my text messages. So I started catching on a few days and oh, wow, I think she's like actually wanting to stay.
Whitaker has been fighting to have his daughter returned home. South Simcoe police announced this week an Ontario-wide warrant for Tegmina Agadzanian, more than a year after she'd left the country. Police charging the 40-year-old woman with abduction and contravention of a custody or parenting order and disobeying a court order.
Because what she's been doing for the past year is she's kidnapping, and her reason is, to get the child for herself and to get money, through this like lucrative 25% child support order.
An order, he says, his daughter's mother got in a Russian court for spousal and child support after ending the relationship once she arrived in Russia last August.
I've been to Russia 7 times. I've spent over $300,000. I spoke to many lawyers. And many lawyers in Russia, they say there's nothing you can do because in Russia, parental abduction isn't criminal. The courts heavily favor the mother.
Whitaker says he's seen his daughter once for a few hours in March under strict conditions. And despite recently getting a Canadian court order to have his child return home, nothing has changed. Whitaker says he wants his family back and is appealing for help to speak with Russian officials and end this year-long nightmare, blaming Tegmina's brother and family for keeping his daughter from him.
I love my family very much. What you're doing is wrong. It's criminal. I don't think, you're a criminal, but you're acting like one right now.
The allegations against the accused have not been tested in court. Pleading with federal government officials to intervene in his case, Whitaker says he'll be returning to Russia next week for a hearing, fighting to bring his daughter home. Mike Arsledy, CTV News, Cookstown.
Trying to gather his words, an emotional news conference detailing troubling allegations.
Through Operation Headwind, we learned that the swim instructor at the Nova Scotia Youth Centre sexually assaulted over 300 young people between the ages of 12 and 18 over almost a 30-year period.
Police said all the alleged victims were boys with the exception of one girl. RCMP commending the bravery and patience of those who have come forward, saying 450 people across the country have been interviewed, leading police to lay 66 charges against one man, 75-year-old Donald Douglas Williams, who was arrested at his Dartmouth home last Saturday. But those charges only cover about 30 of the more than 300 reported victims.
Additional charges are expected against Doug Williams, and they'll be announced in the coming months.
Williams worked at the youth detention center known as Waterville from 1988 to 2017. The alleged assaults happened between 89 and 2015.
This instructor held a position of authority, and the young people he victimized should have been able to trust him and feel safe with him.
Officers began investigating the allegations in 2018 and formed Operation Headwind in 2021, expanding to a 14-member unit dedicated solely to this investigation. RCMP declined speaking to how much bigger the criminal case could get, saying some survivors might not want to pursue it. Most of the charges so far for sexual assault and sexual exploitation, but Williams also faces 3 counts of sexual assault causing bodily harm.
Sexual assault is a devastating crime with traumatic, lifelong impacts on those who've experienced it.
A private tip line for Operation Headwind was set up in 2023.
We believe there may be more survivors and people in the community who knew about the abuse that occurred at the Nova Scotia Youth Centre. If you or someone you know experienced sexual assault while at Waterville, we want you to know it's not too late to report what happened.
None of the allegations have been tested in court. In a statement, Justice Minister Becky Drouin says when the department became aware of the allegations, they were immediately reported to RCMP. She says the well-being, safety, and dignity of those in provincial custody is a top priority. As for Williams, he was released on conditions and is due in Kentville Provincial Court next week.
Public Health confirmed its first human case of West Nile virus this year. It comes 1 month after mosquito pools tested positive in Listowel and Mitchell.
This is the season that we are expecting that West Nile viruses you could get infected with West Nile virus, so you need to be really careful.
And this region isn't alone. Halton reported 5 new human cases Monday, and in Brant County, officials confirmed their first case in 5 years.
There is no vaccine for this disease, and there is no treatment for this disease. So prevention is definitely important.
According to Public Health Ontario, there have been 8 human cases reported across the province this week, with 99 cases reported so far this year, an increase over 2023 when there were 61 cases and 1 reported death, and in 2024 when 87 cases were reported.
Some of the factors that impact West Nile virus transmission is if you have more annual or seasonal temperatures, like more warming. If the habitat is conducive for these mosquitoes to live, that's where you will see like a lot of cases of West Nile virus.
Most people bitten by an infected mosquito experience no symptoms, but for some, the illness brings fever, body aches, or rashes. And in 1% of cases, it can attack the nervous system, causing confusion, loss of consciousness, or paralysis.
In people who have this form of the West Nile virus that affects the central nervous system, death can occur in 10% of cases.
In an effort to mitigate the risk, Huron-Perth Public Health is targeting breeding grounds using larvicide in Stratford, St. Mary's, Listowel, and Mitchell.
I think when cities are being proactive in doing that, that's a good thing for all of us as city dwellers to enjoy the outdoors in the summer months.
But at home, Dowd says property maintenance is critical.
Homeowners need to also be diligent that, standing water, whether it be in their pool cover, their bird bath, children's toys, downspouts, not downspout, these troughs, clearing out that standing water because that's where mosquitoes will breed.
According to officials, West Nile virus usually peaks in late August and lasts into about mid-October, late October. And so, they're urging that their best advice to protect yourself is to cover up, put on insect repellent, and just be wary around the dusk and dawn hours, as that's the most typical time that mosquitoes are most active.
The man working with Nick Chenier the day he died testified he didn't know about the power line above the hedge they were trimming in Manotick, and that as foreman it would have been Chenier's responsibility to assess danger. It seems very unlikely Mr. Chenier wouldn't have seen it in the hours he was working there, defense lawyer Marc Ertl put to Marc-Andre Gosselin. Yes, he replied through a French interpreter. Did he mention that wire to you at all? No, Gosselin said. Stephen Deans, Chenier's supervisor, is charged with criminal negligence causing death. He's pleaded not guilty. Chenier was 20 in May 2023 when the hedge trimmer he was using touched a 16,000-volt power line. He was electrocuted and pronounced dead an hour later. Gosselin said he had received verbal and formal training about that hazard and the distance to stay away from it. Pressed under cross-examination whether the boom lift training included any training about using power tools around high-voltage lines, Gosselin said, "I do not recall." He testified some of the safety training included proper positioning of ladders and how to use the tools. Asked if there was anything else, he replied, "Not that I can recall." The Crown alleges Deans failed to warn Chenier about the danger of the hydro wires and directed him to work without proper training and equipment. The allegations have not been proven in court. Gosselin also testified Chenier called Deans upset about how big this job was and thought it was underpriced. The defense saying that was an example of them being able to reach out if something felt off. Court also heard today from the homeowner who hired Best Green Hedges to do the work. She said they'd done it many times before at her property and that the power lines are visible from her house.
For some, Dufferin Grove Park has been home for a year. But on Friday, the city handed out trespass notices, instructing the tents to come down by Tuesday morning. Now it's raising concerns the encampments could be cleared out.
I am happy to see no police today, but that could change at a moment's notice, so things are fragile. We always want our representatives available.
Security guards and city staff are stationed around the park as various discussions unfold. The city says there were 56 people living here in February, a number that's down to 7. A spokesperson says there is no plan to forcibly remove the people who remain at this time, as progress is being made to offer shelter and supports.
So we're optimistic that more will accept the services and that we'll continue that work to work with them closely one-on-one.
Several in the encampments, though, are skeptical and not ready to leave. While shelter space is available, they want their own permanent place to live, not another hotel room or bed.
Most of us have been traumatized in the actual shelter system. Our request is very simple. If the city actually wants to have a conversation with us, we need one-bedroom apartments.
Unfortunately, many people have taken these Streets to Homes, MDOT, and the other providers of temporary housing, and all it does is bring them into a limited situation, and they end up right back here.
Neighborhood residents have been concerned about the encampments.
A relief that it's going to be gone, because I think it was a security concern for the neighborhood and the community, but at the same time I feel very bad because I don't know what's going to happen to them.
The city says trespass enforcement can begin in 2 situations. 1, if there is an immediate emergency, public health or safety risk, and 2, if outreach is unsuccessful and people in the park keep denying referrals, or to meaningfully work on a housing plan. The city says since February, 9 people that were here do have housing, but the city spokesperson told me today that that's not always possible immediately because of a need for a housing plan, and it's important to have that housing plan to meet each individual's needs. Reporting live, I'm Beth Magdalene.
It was at this Aylmer variety store late in the morning of September 8th. Ruchik Patel was working the counter when security video shows what happened next. He says a customer told him forms were needed for the self-serve lottery kiosk. He goes to get those new forms while the man reaches into the lottery display and grabs a handful. Another opportunity, and he does it again. Later in the day, the store comes up short.
And my colleague told me after, we did not sell it for scratch tickets. So how can it's possible for a shortage?
They checked the video and sure enough, they'd been ripped off.
But first time I had like this kind of situation, so I'm so upset.
He wasn't the only victim. Another distraction theft happened at this Aylmer variety store just a short distance away. According to both St. Thomas and Aylmer police, 2 suspects have been identified and charged by way of warrant in connection to multiple distraction thefts in the area.
This one's a new one. Obviously, things change and there's different techniques and different things that come from time to time, but in my time, this is the first distraction lotto theft that I've come to know.
54-year-old Robert Dobray from the GTA is charged with 4 counts of failing to comply and 2 counts of theft under $5,000. The driver of a white Lexus SUV involved in the incidents has been identified as 54-year-old Ahmed Al-Ahmad of Mississauga. He's been charged with being a party to the offense and 2 counts of theft under $5,000. Police say while they're relatively new here in Elgin, distraction thefts are becoming more and more common. In fact, the suspect in this case, accused of actually taking the lottery tickets, well, he's wanted in 8 different police jurisdictions across Ontario and Quebec. Patel says in his store, the suspect got 2 $50 and 2 $30 scratch tickets. In Ontario, typically the maximum any store can give out in lottery winnings is $600.
Quick money, quick turnaround, even if it is lower denominations. And generally, property crime like this usually fuels some type of a drug addiction and a habit, so the quick turnaround for cash is usually the reward.
Police say both suspects are at large with warrants out for their arrest. Brian Bicknell, CTV News.
You never know what you'll find at a rummage sale.
You name it, we sell it, and I'm not kidding. It's if you look around here, there's furniture, there's appliances, there's things we don't even know what they are.
And those words certainly rang true Tuesday afternoon in Victoria Beach.
I went over to the table, and I thought, holy smokes, that looks like a bomb. And I picked it up. It was very heavy, and I thought, I don't feel comfortable having it on my table.
Volunteers at the beach's community center had been busy sorting through donated items ahead of this weekend's annual sale when Elaine Fletcher and others made the startling discovery.
I was thinking, who the heck had that? Where would they find it?
Fletcher put the object outside and contacted Victoria Beach Police, who evacuated the community center and surrounding area.
I'm not a bomb expert, but obviously safety's number one.
Police Chief Mike McKinnon says the Canadian Military Explosive Disposal Unit was called in and they determined the device was a modular practice bomb.
50, 60 years ago, they would drop these bombs in training exercises and the white smoke would indicate where it's at.
A spokesperson for 17 Wing says the unit removed the bomb and will deal with it in a safe manner. Chief McKinnon says whoever donated the device likely didn't realize it.
There's a lot of history out in Victoria Beach and a lot of old cottages and things like that, and I'm sure the person who dropped it off perhaps was in a box packed in the corner.
By Wednesday afternoon, preparation for the rummage sale was back in full swing, though the bomb discovery was still the talk of the town.
We didn't even think about it. Like when we were handling it, I didn't think it was going to explode or anything.
But the show must go on, and volunteers can't wait for the rummage sale to begin.
We do this every year. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
Daniel Halmerson, CTV News, Victoria Beach.
A major update in the Sioux's 3rd homicide of the year, just a day after a large police presence on McNabb Street.
The investigation led detectives to executing a few search warrants on Tuesday. As a result of those search warrants and the investigation that took place, 2 youth were arrested and charged in connection with the homicide that took place over the weekend.
A local 15-year-old is charged with second-degree murder and a 16-year-old with accessory charges. Police say the 15-year-old was located in the 300 block of Bay Street, with the 16-year-old arrested exiting a residence near the site of the search warrants Tuesday morning. Police have confirmed that the victim was a 23-year-old who is known to both of the teens.
When there's a homicide in our community, it makes people uneasy. So the fact that officers have located 2 people and have charged them in relation to this homicide is information that's important that we get out to the public as quickly as we can. It was also important that we were able to notify the public that the victim was known to the accused. So that was information we wanted to make sure we did get out to the public as soon as we could.
Police officials are still keeping a number of details of the case to themselves, as this is still an ongoing investigation. Corey Nordstrom, CTV News, Sault Ste. Marie.
Sergeant Taylor was fired from the Saskatoon Police Service in March because of that friendship. Now he's appealing the dismissal at a hearing. During testimony, Chief McBride said part of his role is to ensure values and ethics are upheld in the police service. He said their friendship contradicts the code of ethics, pointing to times where he said Taylor tried to benefit the associate. One instance, he said, was in 2023, when Taylor tried to intervene another officer, giving the associate a ticket after a traffic stop. When asked why remedial efforts weren't considered, McBride said the trust between Taylor and several members of the service had already been broken. Taylor's lawyer says there's no evidence to suggest the officer shared information with the associate or the gang. He also said Taylor was upholding the values of the police service by not discriminating against the associate.
If Sergeant Taylor is not fit for the badge because he treated someone not as a criminal, not as a drug dealer, but as someone who had a past that was deserving of redemption, well, I'd hate to see who is deserving of the badge.
The defense also raised concerns about procedures not being followed properly and are filing an abusive process application. That's set to be discussed on Thursday. Stacey Hine, CTV News, Saskatoon.
I do.
You do qualify to get it for free?
Yeah, but my husband doesn't.
For the first time since COVID-19 emerged, one half of this couple will be getting vaccinated and one won't.
But I don't have the same issues she does, so she gets it and I don't.
Are you going to pay?
Not right now. It's too expensive, really.
This pediatric infectious disease specialist and vaccine researcher says the COVID vaccine is about as effective as the flu shot.
40 to 60% reduction in your chance of getting hospitalized and dying from COVID. And that's similar to what we see with the flu vaccine year on year. And I should say that COVID killed twice as many Albertans last year as influenza.
Low-income seniors, people who are immunocompromised, have underlying medical conditions, live in continuing care, or are homeless are eligible for free vaccines. After the government reversed its initial policy, healthcare workers are also included. Everyone else must pay $100. I am going to pay because I do want to be vaccinated. For those who are undecided, Dr. Top suggests looking at the national recommendations on who gets vaccinated. Alberta covers most of those people, but not all.
Most notably that the vaccine doesn't appear to be being offered for free to all Albertans 65 and over, which we know age is probably the biggest risk factor for severe disease.
Other groups left out are people in or from First Nation communities and racialized communities. In a statement, the province says many of these people fall into other eligibility categories, including 87% of seniors. Nicole Weisberg, CTV News, Edmonton.